Night fell over the city, its deserted streets illuminated by streetlights, while a fine rain loudly tapped on the asphalt. An ambulance with its siren blaring raced across the bridge. They had received a call about a patient who was unconscious, experiencing severe convulsions and tremors. Young nurse Donna was deeply worried. It was only her third shift. She feared making mistakes or losing her composure when it mattered most. But experienced paramedic Tate remained calm and focused. She adeptly and professionally administered first aid to the patient and accurately diagnosed the condition. Fortunately, they arrived in time and were able to assist the patient. Afterward, the emergency responders returned to the hospital. As they sat down to have a cup of tea, they were immediately dispatched to another call. What a challenging shift we have today. There's no time to rest, not even for a cup of tea. I'm already so exhausted, and we still have to work until morning, exclaimed Donna. Tate looked at her sternly and replied, "Get used to it, Donna. It's not just today's shift that's tough. Our job is tough. It's always like this, an endless stream of calls. We're saving lives here. Sometimes a patient's survival depends on us. There's no room for sadness or anger. Where do you get all your strength from? I envy you, Tate. How do you manage everything? You have a husband, a little daughter, and you interact with all the patients as if they were family. Always with a smile, with humor. I can't do that," Donna said, surprised. Tate smiled and responded, "You're right. I'm lucky with my husband. Theron, he's a great husband. He can make his own lunch and look after our daughter. He doesn't drink or smoke, and that's very important. When I know my family is safe, I can focus at work. Although he often travels for work, but every reunion with him after his trips becomes highly anticipated. And I really do love my job. I've dreamed of being a doctor since I was a child. I've been working in emergency care for so many years, and I still worry about every patient. Sometimes my superiors scold me for trying to solve all the patient's problems, but I can't help it. I guess it's just my nature. With time, you'll get used to our insane work schedule, and I'll help you with that. Don't worry." By morning, the emergency responders had saved the lives of several more patients, and their shift was over. Tate was extremely tired after work, but knowing that there was much to be done today, she realized she wouldn't be getting any rest soon. She got into her car, picked up her daughter from her mother-in-law's, bought groceries from the store, and headed home. Her daughter kept talking about her day, how much she missed her dad, and kept asking when he would come home. "Dad's coming home today. So, we're going to cook a delicious lunch together. We'll roast chicken, make a salad, and then we'll go play at the playground," Tate said with a smile. At home, Tate took a hot shower in the bathroom and briefly sat down in a soft armchair to catch her breath. She looked at the family photo on the table, the one where she, Theron, and Esther went to the seaside when Esther was just 3 years old. In the picture, they were tanned and happy, with a beautiful waterfront behind them. Tate sighed with pleasure in the chair and thought, "Goodness, it's been so long since we had a vacation. Theron is always traveling for work. I have this awful schedule at work, and we can't go anywhere together. And Esther is already 6. She'll be starting school in the fall. Maybe this summer we'll be able to go on vacation together. I'll definitely suggest it to my husband today. Lately, we've been spending so little time together. I sometimes feel like we're living separate lives." After that, she started reminiscing about her childhood and youth. Tate lost her mother early. She died of pneumonia when Tate was just 5 years old. She was raised only by her father, who worked as a mechanic at the factory, sometimes drank with the men after work, and they lived modestly. But he loved his daughter very much. There was always a small gift in his bag, sometimes just a candy. He always tried to make his daughter happy. Claude missed his wife terribly, worked a lot, and his little daughter demanded attention. Sometimes he didn't know what to do or how to handle everything. His colleagues at work often felt sorry for him. Claude, you should get married again. Someone needs to look after Tate, and there'll be order in the house. You've been so lost without Maureen. Well, you can't bring her back, but your life and your daughters go on. His colleagues advised him, but he just got angry and always replied the same way. I can raise my daughter and provide for her myself. We don't need anyone else. Stop telling me to get married to anyone. Can't you understand? I can't be with anyone except my Maureen. Clear. Tate deeply loved and sympathized with her dad. She understood how hard it was for him without her mom and tried to help him around the house from a young age. She did her homework after school, and by the time her dad came home from work, she always tried to prepare dinner as best as she could. Tate even learned how to darn socks and tights to discreetly mend any holes. And if her dad was late coming home from work, she always knew where to find him. She would go to the garage to his friend Malik, and with a frown, wrinkling her nose, she would say, "Dad, let's go home. Please, don't drink alcohol. I made porridge for you." The men would laugh and marvel, saying, "Claude, she talks just like Maureen, and she even looks at us as sternly as she did." Claude would suddenly feel ashamed and awkward in front of his daughter for some reason, and without much ado, he would say goodbye to his friends and head straight home. There, he would eat the burnt porridge, and then his daughter would sit on his lap, hug him tightly, and he would relax, stroking her beautiful curly hair and holding her close. Tate hardly ever asked her dad for anything, although it was tough for her to socialize with classmates at school. Since childhood, she had been a chubby girl, as meat dishes on the dinner table at home were rare. More often, they ate bread and pasta. Classmates would laugh at her and call her names because she didn't have expensive clothes and had the cheapest phone. At first, Tate would cry, stop talking to everyone, and even skip classes at school. It was unbearable for her to endure the remarks of mean boys. But one day, the moment when other kids were bullying her was witnessed by the gym teacher, Breton. He immediately chased away the insolent boys and reprimanded them. "Are you not ashamed, guys? 3 of you bullying a girl. Is that how gentlemen behave? Shame on you. If you bully the girl again, you'll have problems." I'm not joking. Tate stood by the wall, feeling ashamed that her favorite teacher had seen her classmates bullying her. Suddenly, Breton took her hand and led her to the gym. He told her to sit on the bench, sat down beside her, and said, "Tate, I know you're doing great. You get good grades, and teachers praise you. But kids can be very cruel and will always find something to pick on. So, you shouldn't be afraid of them. I'll teach you how to defend yourself and be the most beautiful girl. Do you want that?" Tate nodded and continued to listen attentively to the gym teacher, her mouth slightly open. "We'll start by getting you to lose weight. Twice a week after classes, you'll come to the gym with me. I'll work out with you. But let's agree that you won't be lazy and will eat less bread. I promise you, in 6 months, those cheeky boys will change their attitude towards you. And you must have a goal in life so that you strive to achieve the desired result. For example, what do you want to be when you grow up?" "When I grow up, I'll become a doctor. My mom died when I was a little girl. The doctors couldn't save her. But I'll grow up and become the best doctor in the world and help people," the girl said without hesitation. "Well done. You'll be an excellent doctor, I'm sure. So, focus on that goal. And don't be upset about the silly boys. We'll show them they're wrong," the gym teacher said enthusiastically. Thanks to the care and support of her teacher, Claude, the girl truly changed. She became more confident, lost weight, and now devoted all her free time to extra classes in chemistry and biology to make it easier to get into medical college. Breton taught her some self-defense techniques, and now the boys at school didn't bully her anymore. But nobody wanted to be friends with her either. But the girl wasn't bothered by it now. She studied a lot to get into college and become a healthcare worker. Her father was proud of her, supporting her desire to study. And he always told her, "I'm proud of you, my daughter. And our mom is proud of you too. I'm sure of it." These kind words from her dad gave her strength, and she worked even harder to get into college. She graduated from medical college excellently, with the highest grades. She volunteered for the most challenging department in the hospital, traumatology. She wasn't afraid to provide first aid and always sincerely tried to help every patient. Soon she fell in love for the first time. They met in a cliched way. Tate was running late for her college practice, and her bus didn't show up on time at the stop, so the guy gave her a ride on his motorcycle. It seemed like a very romantic encounter to her, the sensation of speed from the motorcycle ride and her arms wrapped around the stranger's strong torso. Tate deeply loved her fiancé, Benjamin. He was older than her, worked as a builder, and lived with his mom. The girl completely forgot about caution in their closeness. After all, her beloved man gave her flowers, whispered tender words, and promised to love only her. The outcome was obvious. The girl became pregnant. She was overjoyed. She wanted to tell everything to Benjamin, hoping that now they would get married. But his mother caused a terrible scandal. She shouted that Tate got pregnant from another man and now wanted to marry her son. Benjamin believed her and, afraid of responsibility, decided to break up with Tate. It was hard for the girl to bear this. She cried constantly, couldn't eat anything, and felt like her life was over. That was when she first understood the pain of the soul. Due to severe stress, she had a miscarriage with complications for her health. Tate spent a long time in the hospital, undergoing treatment and suffering greatly. She was lucky that she wasn't expelled from college and was allowed to retake exams and complete the session, so she managed to finish medical college. But now she tried to avoid interacting with guys, considering them all betrayers. After finishing college, Tate started working as a paramedic in an emergency medical team. She worked a lot, and the endless calls to patients taught her a great deal. She could react instantly and make responsible decisions without panicking, restrain her emotions even when the situation seemed critical. But she didn't become callous. She cared about the fate of every patient. Tate tried to listen to and understand each patient because often a person just needed someone to talk to, and it already made them feel better. She was especially good at talking to children. She could negotiate with them, and the little patients were drawn to her. Her superiors constantly praised her for excellent work, and colleagues often said it was time for her to get married. But Tate still didn't even want to look at men. Everything changed in one situation. One day, after her shift, she was walking home and saw 3 men beating up another guy in the courtyard of a multi-story building. Tate couldn't just pass by, so without being scared, she started shouting loudly, "Stop it. I'll call the police right now. People, help. Someone is being killed." Upon hearing the girl scream, several residents rushed out of the building, and the men who were fighting quickly ran away. The guy was left lying in a pool of blood, groaning softly. Everyone panicked. Someone called for emergency help, and Tate firmly shouted, "Let me through. I'm a paramedic. Let me provide first aid." She examined the injured person and confidently said, "You've nicked a vein. See how much blood is flowing from the wound. Don't panic. Press your hand firmly here and hold on tight. Everything will be fine. The main thing is to get to the hospital on time." Tate tightly bandaged the arm above the wound, using her shirt as a tourniquet. She skillfully provided first aid and personally accompanied the patient to the hospital in the emergency medical vehicle. The man was lucky. He survived only thanks to the timely help provided by Tate. When they finally stitched up the wound and stopped the bleeding, they finally introduced themselves. "Thank you for your help. You saved my life and drove away the men who attacked me. I hadn't even reached home, just about 100 meters away. I didn't even understand where they came from. The men demanded my bag and money, tore off the gold chain from my neck. I tried to defend myself, but when 3 people attack one, the result is obvious. I feel embarrassed, But it's very nice that such a beautiful girl defended me. Let me thank you and invite you for dinner at a cafe. My name is Theron," the man said gratefully. Tate felt embarrassed and replied, "Theron, you need to recover first. I'll come to your room tomorrow, and then we'll decide. With my work schedule, it's very difficult to find free time, and I haven't trusted men since a sad experience. So, take care, get well soon. It's time for me to go home. See you tomorrow." Tate visited Theron's room to check on his condition several times. After that, the man began to show persistence. He treated the girl tenderly and gently. Tate herself didn't notice how she fell in love again, but this time it was real love. Theron's parents immediately liked Tate. They noticed that she was a serious girl, and they were sure that they would have a strong family. And they were right. The couple got married, celebrating a modest wedding. Of course, the spouses wanted to have children. They dreamed of a large family and planned to buy a big house in the future. But after Tate's miscarriage, she struggled to conceive for a long time. She was nervous about it, underwent numerous examinations at medical centers. So, when it finally happened, she was overjoyed. However, during pregnancy, she felt very unwell. Throughout her pregnancy, there was a threat of miscarriage, terrible morning sickness, and several times the girl was hospitalized. Theron was always there, supporting her, not allowing her to be sad. Perhaps it was his love and care that helped her endure everything. The delivery lasted about 2 days. The daughter was born weak, premature, and she barely survived. The parents loved their daughter very much, and after all the difficulties, they both took care of her. Theron turned out to be a great father. He woke up at night and helped his wife when the baby cried, worked outside with his daughter. But unfortunately, Theron had a job that involved frequent business trips. He worked for a small company in the procurement department, so he often had to leave home for work matters. Tate didn't ask unnecessary questions about her husband's work. She understood everything, as she herself had a dangerous job with a terrible schedule. Therefore, she faithfully awaited her husband's return from business trips and was always happy when he arrived. However, Tate's father was constantly unhappy when she left her daughter with her grandmother. "Tate, this shouldn't be happening. What kind of family do you have? You work round the clock. Your husband is constantly on business trips, and Esther stays with her grandmother more often than at home. Husbands and wives should be together every day. Then everything will be fine in the family. Otherwise, Theron might find another woman." Her father said over the phone, "Don't make me laugh, Dad. Theron is not like that. He loves me and our daughter very much. Everything is fine with us. He works hard for the family and earns money." Tate replied with a laugh, although lately Tate had noticed that her husband's business trips had become very frequent, and his income had decreased. He complained that the company's profits had declined but promised that it was only temporary. Theron was also very tired. He came home looking sad and exhausted. Tate tried to be patient and understanding, so she felt sorry for her husband, cooked delicious meals for him, showed affection, and allowed him to sleep well and rest. Every family goes through tough times. You just have to get through it. Today, Theron came home very late, refused dinner, played with their daughter for a bit, and went to bed. Tate even felt offended. She had been waiting for him, missed him, spent several hours preparing dinner, and he didn't even kiss her like before or say he loved her. She sighed, wiped away a tear from her cheek, covered her husband with a blanket, and admired how soundly he slept. Studying the familiar features of his face, she stroked his hair and whispered, "My love, everything will be fine with us. Rest. You must be tired after the journey. I love you. Together, we can overcome anything." Her husband smiled in his sleep and whispered back, "And I love you, my joy." He hugged Tate tightly, and she fell asleep as soon as she felt that indescribable feeling of unity with her beloved. A couple of weeks passed. Theron began to spend more time with his family. playing with his daughter often, and in the evenings, they watched their favorite TV series together with Tate, and everything was as good as before. But soon, the man was getting ready to travel again. Your boss doesn't seem to care about you at all. This shouldn't be happening. After all, you have a family, and it's not like the profits are good. It seems like you're coming back practically empty-handed, and I have to miss you again, Tate asked sadly. Theron sighed heavily and tried to reassure his wife. Don't be upset. It's necessary. I know it's not the best time for us right now. Things are getting worse at the company. But I've been working there for many years, and I don't want to disappoint the management and quit at such a difficult time for the company. I'm sure we'll get through this, and everything will improve soon. Just bear with me a little longer. Do you think I don't miss you, Anesta? I miss you both very much. Tate hugged her husband, kissed him goodbye, and saw him off at the door. But for some reason, she felt melancholy. She tried not to dwell on the negative, knowing that she had to start her shift at the emergency department tomorrow, where she needed to be calm and composed. They drove to the call as usual, where they were told a child with a high fever was waiting. Tate prepared herself to be very tactful. Often, panicked parents tend to get too rough when their beloved child is sick, and it's important not to get angry with them, but instead reassure them. A sweet woman in her 30s opened the door with a pleasant smile but sad eyes. She let Tate inside and began to explain. Hello, please come in. Lisa, my daughter, she's sick. She has a high fever, and I can't seem to bring it down. Please help. I'm very worried. Tate entered the room and noticed the impeccable cleanliness and order everywhere. In the bed lay a little girl, wrapped in a warm blanket up to her neck. Her eyes were watery and sick, and her cheeks were flushed. Tate placed the thermometer and gently asked the child, Hello, sweetie. I'm a doctor. Can you tell me where it hurts? The girl pointed to her throat with difficulty and said, My throat hurts. Swallowing is painful. And my head hurts too. And I feel like sleeping. Tate glanced at the thermometer and, seeing the high temperature, examined the child's throat. She immediately removed the warm blanket, took out a fever-reducing medication from her medical bag, administered the injection to the child, and said to the mother, Your daughter likely has tonsillitis. I've given her an injection, so her body temperature should decrease soon. I'll also prescribe a broad-spectrum antibiotic syrup for you. I'll write down the dosage schedule as well. But be sure to take your daughter to the pediatrician tomorrow. And make sure Lisa drinks plenty of fluids. Tea with lemon and berry juice. It will help her recover faster. Also, remember, it's forbidden to overdress the child when they have a high body temperature. The woman nodded, feeling somewhat reassured. As she saw off the paramedics at the door, she said, Thank you. I feel a little calmer now. I'll definitely take my daughter to the hospital to see the pediatrician tomorrow. The paramedic measured the child's temperature again, which had already started to decrease after the injection. The girl began to feel better and even brightened up a little, so they could now proceed to other calls. As Tate was about to leave the bedroom, she noticed a photo on the wall in a frame. It was her husband, Theron. She even recoiled and asked again, I'm sorry for asking, but who's in this photo? The man looks familiar. The apartment owner smiled and replied, That's my fiancé, Theron, Lisa's father. We've been together for a long time now. Lisa has already grown up, but we still haven't managed to get married. First, we postponed it because of the pregnancy. Then because of Theron's frequent business trips. Tate couldn't believe what she heard and asked again, And now, where is your fiancé? Is he on another business trip? The woman happily replied, No, he's home now. He just arrived today. He went to the store for groceries. I can't leave the house with my daughter, so he went for us. He's such a good and caring man. Tate saw Theron's travel bag in the hallway and realized it was true. She was the one who bought that bag many years ago at a thrift store. Everything fell into place. So, this is why her family is struggling financially. It's indeed difficult to support and provide for everyone at the same time. Goodbye, Tate said with difficulty, and rushed out onto the street. She felt an unbearable pain in her chest. Concerned, Donna, her colleague from the ambulance, stepped out of the vehicle and hurried to her. Tate, are you okay? You look pale. What happened? Are you so worried about the child's condition? But you said yourself that it's just a regular tonsillitis. She'll get better. Don't worry, Donna said. Tate finally took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and tried to calm down. She didn't want to tell anyone about her humiliation and her husband's betrayal. She didn't want anyone's sympathy. So, she forced a smile and replied, Donna, everything's fine. My heart just ached a bit. Probably because of the weather change. Shall we continue? We have a lot more calls today. Tate managed to finish her shift, but when she felt desperate, she would go to the bathroom, cover her mouth with her hand to stifle any screams, and quietly cry. Then she would wash her face with water and head out on the next call. Tate couldn't comprehend that her loyal, affectionate, and loving Theron turned out to be a traitor. That he had not just a lover for many years, but essentially a second family. So, he's been deceiving both of them and swearing his love. Is such a thing even possible? When Tate returned home, her daughter immediately sensed that her mom was deeply upset. The little girl hugged her tightly and tried to comfort her, saying, Who hurt you, Mom? Were you crying? I love you. Want me to cheer you up? Look, watch what I can do. The girl got up from the floor, rolled back and forth, did a somersault over her head, and made a funny face, trying to make her mom laugh. Tate did indeed smile and praised her daughter. Well done. I'm fine. So, shall we go for a walk outside? The woman tried to contain her emotions in front of her daughter, but when the little girl fell asleep in the evening, Tate sobbed on the bed almost until dawn. She realized that their family was shattered. But was it even real? Or did Tate invent it herself? What should I do now with this truth? How do I go on living? I wish I had never seen that photo and could have lived as before, unaware of all this. I would still be cooking soups and baking pies, waiting for my husband to return from another business trip. Or maybe pretend that nothing happened and not deprive my daughter of her father. But how do I live with Theron now? How do I look into his deceitful eyes and know that he's off to see his mistress again instead of going on a business trip? And he'll still say he loves her. Or should I create a scene at home when he returns? What would I achieve? Just scare my daughter badly? Lord, help me find a solution. Help me find the strength to get through all of this. Tate reasoned. In the morning, Tate already knew what she would do. She didn't cry anymore. She made oatmeal with raisins for her daughter's breakfast and went to wake her up. Mom, I don't want to go to daycare today. And I don't want to go to Grandma's either. The girl whined. Tate smiled and replied, Today, we won't go to daycare or Grandma's. Today, we're going to your Grandpa Claude's in the small town, and we'll live there. He's really missed his granddaughter and is already waiting for us. Hooray! I miss Grandpa too. He has a cat named Thomas at home. Can we buy him some food? What about Dad? Is he going to live with us? Esther asked excitedly. Tate managed to hold back her tears and, exhaling, quietly answered, Dad is on a business trip right now, and he'll be away for a long time. So, it'll just be us going. Now go and pack your toys. On her way, Tate stopped by her workplace and surprised everyone with the news of her departure. She had a long conversation with her boss and then submitted a request for a transfer to the hospital in the small town where her father lived. All her colleagues started asking, Tate, are you just leaving us like that? Or is something wrong? Do you need any help? Once again, the woman managed to hold back her emotions. She longed to tell someone everything. I'm fine. We just decided to move in with my dad. That's all. Tate replied. Tate said her goodbyes to everyone at work and drove with her daughter to the small town where her father lived. The whole way, she was nervous, anxious, and didn't understand how to tell her father everything, as it was so embarrassing. But her wise father understood everything without explanations when he saw his daughter and granddaughter in his house, and their luggage in the car. He didn't even ask Tate anything. He saw his daughter's teary eyes and understood how difficult it was for her. He knew she would tell him everything when she could. Instead of lecturing her, he reached out his arms to them and exclaimed, "My granddaughter has come to visit me. How you've grown. How much you look like your mother. Hello, my dear. Well done for coming. Come in. There's not much food in the fridge, but I'll quickly run to the store." Tate hugged her dad and said softly, "Dad, I haven't come to visit you. I've come for good. Will you take us in? Me and Esther. Will you not kick us out? I've even transferred to our local hospital." Claude sighed and stroked her hair, just like he used to when she was a child. "I understand everything. What nonsense is this? Of course, stay. I'll be delighted. I'm so bored in retirement. My only entertainment is playing backgammon with a friend outside. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Maybe you'll even reconcile." Tate was deeply grateful to her father for not asking her anything and simply allowing them to stay. She was also warmly received at the hospital, where specialists were scarce. Tate tidied up, did a thorough cleaning of the house, and constantly tried to delight her father and daughter with something delicious. Esther quickly made friends with a neighbor girl her age and was often not at home. Tate kept her emotions in check, not showing them to her father and daughter. But it was impossible to forget so many years of life and the man she had sincerely loved. And she cried at night, burying her face in the pillow. 2 weeks passed. Theron returned home and shouted, "Tate, Esther, I'm home. Why isn't anyone welcoming me? Hello, where is everyone?" He dropped his bag to the floor and began walking around the apartment, looking at the empty closets. There were no books, clothes, or toys in the children's room either. He realized that his wife and daughter had gone somewhere, forever. Has Tate found out everything? But how? This is the last thing I needed, the man thought, feeling scared. He started calling his wife, who didn't answer the phone for a long time, but then finally picked up. "What do you want, Theron?" she said. "Tate, what is this joke? I don't understand where you've all disappeared to. I came home and no one's here. What happened?" The man shouted into the phone. "Nothing happened, Theron, except that now I know you've had 2 families for many years, and you have another daughter, Lisa, who, by the way, is a wonderful girl. And here I was wondering why you were always so tired from your business trips. Turns out it's the intimate moments with your other family that exhaust you. So, you can live there. I won't disturb you. And don't ever call me again. I won't be able to forgive you," Tate replied. Theron didn't know what to say, so he hung up the phone. He sat on the couch, holding his head in his hands, muttering, "I've really messed up. This had to happen. I've spent so many years with Tate, loving her and Esther. But I also love Monica and Lisa, and it turns out I'm lying to them too. What a terrible person I am. Maybe it's for the best that Tate found out on her own. I'll go back to Monica, tell her the truth, marry her, and live like a normal person. And Tate, she's strong. She'll manage on her own. I'm sure of it." Theron grabbed his bag. He didn't want to stay alone in the empty apartment, so he went back to Monica. She was a little surprised, as she had just seen off her beloved fiancé on a business trip an hour ago. Theron sat down beside her and asked softly, "Monica, tell me, do you still want us to get married? And for me to stop going on business trips so often? And to always be by your side?" The woman nodded and said with a smile, "Of course, I want that. Our daughter is already 6 years old, and legally you are still nobody to her. It's not even clear if we're together or not. And are you proposing to me now? I can't believe it." Theron sighed again and, perhaps for the first time in his life, decided to tell the truth. "Monica, I love you and Lisa very much, and we will definitely get married soon. But first I need to get divorced. This can't go on. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I don't want to start our family life with deceit. I'm married. My wife's name is Tate. She works as a paramedic in emergency services. I also have a daughter, Esther, who is also 6. It turns out that Tate somehow found out about us and left me herself. So now you and I can finally get married. Why are you looking at me like that? Aren't you happy? You've been asking me for years when we'll get married. Monica stared at her fiancé in shock. She thought Theron would pull out a ring and profess his love to her. But what she heard made her feel sick. What are you saying? So, you've been married all these years. And what am I to you then? A mistress for entertainment. Is that it? What a horrible person you are. I thought you really loved me. But what about you? Oh, dear. How much I sympathize with your wife. How many tears must she have shed? You know what, Theron? Get out of here and never come back to us. Go back to your wife and live there. I will never be able to trust you again. How could you do this to us? Why did you lie to me for so many years? I would never have slept with you if I knew you were married. Leave, Monica. Why are you saying this? We love each other. You've been dreaming of our wedding. Don't kick me out. I'm begging you. What about Lisa? She's my daughter too. Theron pleaded. Monica seemed to go berserk. She grabbed him by the shirt and screamed in his face. Forget about Lisa too. Legally, you are nobody to her. She doesn't need such a treacherous father. I hate you. Theron left Monica and went back to his apartment. He wandered through the empty rooms, where no one was waiting for him, greeting him, or loving him anymore. It seemed like the door to Esther's room would open any moment, and laughing Esther would run out to hug him. And Tate would call him for dinner, and everything would be like before, as always. But he realized that nothing would ever be the same again. Never. Then the man got very angry and thought, no, I won't give up just like that. Okay, Lisa was born out of wedlock, and it will be difficult to prove otherwise. But Esther is my legitimate daughter, and I have every right to see her. I'll scare Tate a bit, and if she doesn't come back to me, I'll take my daughter through the court and make sure she lives with me. They're upset now, but I love them both, and I never hurt them. And I won't stay alone here. I'll do whatever it takes, but I'll bring my wife and child back home. From that day on, Tate's life was terrible. Theron constantly called her, threatening to take their daughter away through court and begging her to come back to him. He promised he wouldn't see his lover anymore and spoke ill of her, as if Monica had seduced him, and he wasn't at fault in the situation at all. But Tate remembered that sweet woman with sad eyes and couldn't believe her husband. She didn't seem like a cunning seductress. She was just as quiet and simple as Tate. And most likely, she didn't even suspect her fiancé was married if she dreamed of marrying him. Tate looked at Esther and realized her daughter would now grow up without a father. She still loved him and missed him. It was unfair. But Tate decided not to return to her husband. She couldn't trust him anymore, couldn't love him sincerely. And the thought of lying in bed with him now disgusted her. Her father saw her suffering and couldn't bait. He said, Tate, don't torture yourself. There's no need for that. If you've decided to divorce, file the papers. Otherwise, he'll keep tormenting you. I understand it's hard. You'll have to divide everything. The apartment, the car. You acquired it all in marriage. But nothing will change. Either forgive him and live on with this, or divorce is the only option. And Tate made up her mind. She was the first to file for divorce. Theron went berserk, hired a lawyer, and prepared to take everything from her in court. Even Esther. His life now was also very difficult. At work, hearing about everything, his colleagues began to condemn him. Many of his friends had often come to their home with Tate, celebrated holidays together, always praised the hostess, saw how she loved her husband, and couldn't believe he had betrayed her for so many years. Theron now survived on convenience foods. He had never known how to cook. And why would he need to? He was used to eating well and deliciously and being pampered by two loving women. Now, every evening alone in the empty apartment was unbearable for him. Out of disappointment, he started drinking alcohol, began to look bad, and his stomach hurt terribly. He desperately missed Esther, missed Lisa, and missed both women too. And now, even his acquaintances had turned away from him. It was crushing him. Tate was tired of the constant tension. She never thought Theron would behave so brazenly and aggressively. It turns out, after living so many years together, she didn't really know what kind of person he was. He had always been affectionate, tender, and they hardly ever argued. But no, Theron was threatening her, even though he was the one at fault for everything. She tried to hold back her emotions, not to show her tears in front of her father and daughter. One day, a call came into the hospital, and they needed to go to the farthest farm, located at the very end of the small town. A family lived there, engaged in cattle breeding and growing vegetables in greenhouses for sale. Many locals worked for them during the season, praising the owner for always paying generously and treating people fairly. Their estate was indeed impressive. There was a large house and vast grounds. The door was opened by a short, stocky man around 40 years old, apparently the owner himself. He greeted them and got busy. "Good evening. Come in. My name is Holly. I called you. Mom's arthritis has flared up. The pain is excruciating. She can't get out of bed all day. She needs to go to town, to the hospital, but that's only on Monday. Is there any way to ease her condition? It's heartbreaking to see your loved one suffer." Tate entered the house and saw a little old lady lying on a huge, sturdy bed in one of the bedrooms. She was rubbing some ointment on her swollen joints and squinting from pain. The paramedic introduced herself. "Good evening. My name is Tate. Let me examine you. How long have you been suffering from arthritis? What medication have you been using? Do you have any hospital records? I need to understand which medication to administer." The old lady immediately brightened up because all elderly people are happy when they receive extra attention. And Annabelle started talking. "I've been ill for a long time, about 10 years. As soon as my joints caught a chill, my legs started hurting. My son is caring. He takes me to a private clinic for examination and treatment twice a year, and I often undergo treatment at resorts. After that, I feel much better. It lasts almost a whole year, and then everything needs to be done again. He's a good boy, hard-working, fair, kind. It's just a pity he's alone, without a beloved woman. When I die, he won't have anyone to talk to. He needs to find a decent, serious wife. Someone like you, for example. By the way, are you married? Do you have children?" Meanwhile, Tate was drawing medication into a syringe and laughed, saying, "Are you trying to marry me off to your son?" "No, thank you. I don't want that anymore. Right now, I'm divorcing a cheater, my husband. 10 years he lived with 2 families, and I had no idea. And now he wants to take away my daughter too. The court will be very soon. So, I don't want to hear anything about men. Let me take a look at your medical records instead." The elderly woman shook her head and said, "I sympathize with you. Indeed, there are many bad people around nowadays. But my Harley is not like that. He himself suffered from his wife's infidelity. She was fooling around in our house with her lover until Harley saw it with his own eyes. And then he kicked her out. And the Lord didn't bless them with children. Harley got injured in childhood. He also said he won't be meeting anyone else now." Harley walked into the bedroom, and the heartfelt conversation between the 2 women immediately stopped. He looked intently and sternly at Tate and suddenly offered, "Tate, you don't have any more calls for today, right? We were just about to have dinner. Will you join us? And thank you for helping my mom. I can see she's feeling better already." Tate felt somehow embarrassed and blushed. "Thank you for the invitation, Holly, But I won't be able to have dinner with you. My daughter is waiting for me at home, and my dad will worry if I'm late. Let's have dinner some other time." The host sighed sadly, bid farewell, and escorted the girl to the exit. Tate really liked Annabelle. It was pleasant to talk to her, but she somehow felt intimidated by Hallie. He had a very stern look. A couple of days later, someone rang the doorbell of Tate's apartment. She opened the door and saw a guy from the farm standing on the doorstep, holding a huge basket of gifts for her. There was everything: ripe large tomatoes and fragrant cucumbers, goat cheese, a bunch of cilantro and parsley, tasty pears and apples, and even a cluster of ripe grapes. And there was a note from Hallie inside: "Enjoy. All the products are fresh. Looking forward to seeing you and your daughter on Sunday. Mom will be happy to meet you. Best regards, Holly." It was so touching, so unexpected, and pleasant. Tate chuckled and thought to herself, "Well, I've never been given such bouquets before. Holly managed to surprise me. Well, is all of this for us? From whom? Can I have a pear? It smells so good. What a sweet pear," Esther exclaimed, admiring the gifts. Claude also looked at his daughter with interest, but didn't ask anything, just waiting for her to mention where the gift came from. "It's a gift from Holly, the farmer. I recently visited them and treated his mom, so I guess as a sign of gratitude, he sent over this basket. He wrote inviting us over with Esther. But I'm not sure what to do. Should I go or not? It feels awkward. We barely know him," Tate replied, feeling embarrassed. "Of course, go. It'll be a nice break for you and Esther. He must have liked you if he's inviting you over. He's a decent man, a good host. I've never heard anything bad about him. Such a person won't harm you, especially considering all you've been through with the divorce. You've lost a lot of weight," her dad reassured her. Tate really enjoyed visiting the farmer. Annabelle happily showed Esther all the animals on their property, telling many interesting stories. They had a wonderful time together. Holly turned out to be a pleasant and down-to-earth person, easy to talk to. The conversation naturally turned to personal matters. Tate didn't even notice how she opened up to Holly about everything: her husband's betrayal, the difficult divorce process that wouldn't let her rest. The man listened attentively, nodding, and then opened up himself. "I understand you perfectly. I was once in a similar situation. I've loved Adele since school, but she wouldn't let me date her. After school, we didn't see or communicate with each other until we met again at a school reunion. By that time, she was already divorced. I couldn't resist. I loved her so much all these years. My friends warned me not to talk to her, told me she was fond of deceiving wealthy men, but I didn't believe them. Adele and I celebrated our wedding splendidly. It seemed like my school dream had come true, but I rushed. I should have looked at her closely and gotten to know her better first. Adele was never interested in the farm and household. She always said it smelled bad here, and she never helped me, but I didn't insist. Adele lived for her pleasure, slept until noon, sometimes cooked, often went to see her friends, and then suddenly decided to take up flowers, spending all her time in our garden, in the greenhouse. At first, I was even glad, thinking Adele had finally found a hobby. But my mom was the first to notice her strange behavior, and I refused to believe until I saw those lovers myself. I thought I'd kill them both. Imagine what it was like to find out that my beloved wife was cheating on me right here, in my own home, with an ordinary worker. I went through all that horror very heavily. Since then, I've decided to be alone. But you're a completely different woman. It's evident right away. You work, raise your daughter, and respect your father. I really like you, Tate. A wife like you is a dream. I understand you are not up for this right now. You have enough problems of your own. But I'm ready to help you. I have enough money and connections for that. Don't worry, your husband won't take away your child for sure. I suggest we become friends, talk, and see where it goes from there. Tate was touched by Holly's words. She really needed some friendly support, as she couldn't tell her dad everything, and she didn't want him to worry even more. So she replied, "I'm not against it, Holly. Let's be friends. I have a court hearing in a week, and everything will be decided there. I'm very nervous. I won't give Esther to anyone. But Theron has gone crazy. He's obsessed with the idea of taking my child away. He doesn't understand that our daughter will suffer from it. He only thinks about his ambitions. I don't need the apartment and possessions. If he wants, he can take everything, as long as he leaves Esther alone. I don't say anything bad about her father to her. She still loves him and waits for him." As the court date approached, Tate became more nervous, and Theron constantly scared her, claiming he had compromising material against her and would make sure their daughter lived with him. Tate stopped eating and sleeping. She prayed constantly for her ex-husband to come to his senses and not traumatize their child. But a day before the court, everything suddenly changed. Theron's lawyer called her and informed her that her husband wouldn't come to court and asked her to come to the hospital, to the surgical department. Tate didn't understand what had happened. That's when she first asked the farmer for help, ran to his house, told him everything, and begged him, "Holly, I'm afraid to go to the hospital alone. I don't know what to expect from Theron. What if it's some kind of trick? I won't be surprised by anything anymore. Could you go to the hospital with me? It would make me feel much better." The man immediately agreed to her request and said, "Of course, I can go with you. Let me change, and we'll go. Wait for me here. Don't be afraid. I'll be right there. Everything will be fine." They went to the hospital and entered the ward together. Pale and weak, Holly lay on the bed, hooked up to an IV drip. Upon seeing Tate, he weakly smiled and began to speak. "Hello, Tate. Thank you for coming to the hospital. Please forgive me for betrayal, for infidelity, for causing you distress over the court case. Now I'm being punished by the Lord. I'm dying. Tate, after you left home, I completely stopped taking care of myself. Started drinking alcohol. Hardly ate anything. I felt my stomach starting to hurt badly. But I didn't seek help for those pains. And yesterday I was taken from home by an ambulance. I need an expensive surgery. Only then will there be a small chance of recovery for me. But where can I get the money for it? I only have half of the required amount. My greedy lawyer has already taken all my money, and it turns out I owe him again for his services. But I didn't call you to complain. I wanted to bid you farewell and ask for forgiveness." Tate cried and didn't know what to say. She felt deeply sorry for Theron, despite what he had done. After all, they had spent so many years together. She stroked his hand and whispered, "Is there really nothing that can be done?" At this point, Holly intervened, coughed, and firmly said, "I'm willing to pay for your surgery, but only on the condition that you stop tormenting Tate and won't try to take her daughter away from her. Be a man. How much longer can you torment a woman? Is she to blame for anything?" "I agree. I agree to these conditions. I don't want to die. I promise, if I survive, I will never cause Tate harm again. Believe me, I've reconsidered a lot when I found myself in the hospital. I know I'm to blame for everything. I've made 2 women miserable," Theron said. Holly kept his promise. He talked to the doctor and paid for Theron's surgery. Theron survived and began to slowly recover. Tate visited him, brought him soups, and supported him like a human being. Theron was very grateful to her for this assistance. He looked at her, admired how she habitually tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, how she shrugged her shoulders. It seemed to him that everything was back to how it used to be. And soon, he would get out of the hospital bed, and they would go home together. Their daughter would be waiting for them there, and they would be happy and cozy, just like before. Theron couldn't hold back and quietly asked, "Tate, maybe we can still make it work and start our life together anew." We were happy once. I love our daughter, and I miss her so much. Maybe you'll forgive me." Tate lowered her gaze and shook her head, then sighed heavily and resolutely replied, "No, Theron, it's over between us. I loved you very much and trusted you, just like I trusted myself. But you ruined it all. And now I've grown fond of a completely different person, Holly. He's straightforward and honest, and I feel calm with him. He's a real man, you know, and you can always see your daughter. You're her father. I don't mind your meetings at all. Esther loves you and misses you too. I don't want us to part as enemies. That's not right. We're both parents, and that means we should remain human and maintain a civil relationship, at least for the sake of our daughter. Forgive me. I have to go. Get well soon." After Tate left, Theron felt very sad. He cried for a long time, not holding back his tears. How he regretted now losing his family. How he had ruined not only Tate's life, but also Monica's. After all, he had deceived two women and lied to them for many years. He realized that all he could do now was to live for his children, to help and support his girls. Tate started dating Holly. Annabelle really liked Tate, and she also loved spending time with Esther, calling her her granddaughter. Tate decided to go to the city and visit Monica again. Why? She herself didn't know, but she really wanted to have an honest conversation with her. At first, Monica was very scared when she saw her guest and immediately started to explain. "Please forgive me. I didn't know Theron was married. He deceived me for so many years, and I used to get upset with him all the time, wondering why we rarely went out together, why he kept postponing the wedding. I made excuses for him because I loved him, and when I found out everything, I broke up with Theron immediately. I don't want to be deceived anymore. It's not right. You probably hate me, don't you? Curse me. Do you?" Tate shook her head and replied, "Monica, there's no need to talk like that. Why would I hate you? You're just as deceived as I am. Theron deceived both of us. We got divorced, but managed to maintain a civil relationship for the sake of our daughter. You're probably wondering why I came. Our daughters are like sisters to each other, right? Maybe we could introduce them to each other. After all, they're relatives, and there's nothing left for us to share. So come visit us with Lisa. I'd be very happy to see you. And also, I want you to know, I'm no longer angry with Theron. Moreover, I found another man whom I love. Yes, it happens. And you will find someone too. You just need to believe in yourself again." Monica looked at Tate in amazement and said, "I've never met such remarkable women like you. Lisa and I will definitely come visit you. Thank you for the invitation. Although it seems strange when a wife and a lover decide to become friends. Thank you for being able to forgive me. Honestly, this conversation has made me feel better. Do you know what's going on with Theron now? Where is he?" "He's in the hospital now, recovering after the surgery. He's in the surgical department. You can visit him if you want. I can see that you still love him," Tate said with a smile. The women said goodbye. There were no more unspoken words or resentments between them because Tate now loved a completely different person. She was able to forgive Theron, and whether Monica would be with him or not was her decision alone. Monica decided to go to the hospital to see Theron because they had been connected for many years not only by feelings but also by their shared child. And he would never be a stranger to her now. After their breakup, she cried for a long time and couldn't get over this betrayal. But along with the hatred, Monica realized that she still loved him. But when they met in the hospital and talked, Monica understood that they would never be together again. He, of course, asked for forgiveness, said that he loved and missed their daughter. But Monica now looked at him completely differently. She understood that she would never be able to trust him again. They parted ways, agreeing that Theron could see Lisa. After all, adult problems should not affect children. Many years have passed since then. Tate was happy with Holly. They had a strong and friendly family where there was no deceit. Her husband was the master of the house and handled all important matters independently. But this didn't bother Tate at all. On the contrary, she felt protected and was sure that Holly would never betray her, deceive her, or hide anything from her. And if there were ever arguments in their family, they simply resolved them by sitting down and talking until they found a solution together. Esther got along well with Holly, who enjoyed spending time with her, helping with homework, and raising her. But the girl still eagerly awaited her time with her dad. Moreover, Esther and Lisa became best friends. The sisters shared their secrets and were remarkably similar in character. Sometimes Theron would take them both at once, making their time together even more enjoyable. The man realized that he had been wrong, and now he spent all his free time with his daughters. He bought them the best things, took them to parks, to the circus, and was the best dad for them. Of course, Theron regretted that he couldn't keep either of the women he loved by his side. And every time he took his daughter from Tate, he felt a sense of jealousy when he saw how happy she was now with another man. But he immediately realized that he was to blame for this himself. After a year, Monica met a good man and was able to build strong relationships. And this time she didn't postpone the wedding. At first, she was very jealous of her new partner, constantly checking for any secrets or hidden truths. But then she calmed down and began to trust her fiancé. In Holly's family, it had long been a family tradition to celebrate Esther's birthday with the whole extended family. On this day, everyone gathered in their home. Theron, Monica, Lisa. No one remembered old grievances, only rejoiced and celebrated the child's birthday. Annabelle watched the heartfelt family gatherings, saw how happy her son was, and thanked the Lord for sending Tate into their home back then. It was from that time that Holly regained his self-confidence and became an exemplary husband. Tate sat at the large table, leaning against Holly, and quietly conversed with him. How quickly time flies. It seems like just yesterday we met. Esther wasn't even in school yet, and now she's already in 5th grade. How she has grown, becoming such a mature girl. And Lisa looks more like Monica, doesn't she? The girls have grown up so fast. They're constantly laughing, discussing boys, trying on outfits. If we could have children, who would you want more, a boy or a girl? The man furrowed his brow and looked at his wife in confusion. Why are you bringing this up? You know I can't have children, and if it hasn't happened until today, there's no point in waiting further. Unfortunately, we're not getting any younger. Having a son or daughter is my unfulfilled dream. I'm already so happy that I met you, that I care for Esther. She's like a daughter to me. But I no longer dream of having my own children. Tate looked at him mysteriously and said, "You always have to believe in miracles, and they will definitely come true. Now I know it for sure. Look what I have. Just keep it quiet, please. I'm not ready to discuss it in front of guests yet, but with you, I'll share the secret." Holly looked astonished at the test with 2 lines, and finally understood what his wife wanted to tell him. It seemed to him that his breath stopped. He almost cried and whispered, "This can't be. Is it true? I'll carry you in my arms, protect you. Can I tell my mom? She'll be so happy to hear this news." Tate quickly hid the test in the pocket of her dress and kissed Holly tenderly, whispering, "Just hold on a bit. We've been waiting for this for so long. We'll tell everyone a little later. But for now, let it be our little secret."